It is very intimate. I said that once before. It's a bit weird. And it's more intimate than sex unless you become pregnant. It's like something that really stays with you. There's such a hunger for these kind of experiences, to go out of such a comfort zone, to, I don't know, eat something while sweating in a sauna, while listening to weird things, while being exposed to strobe lighting, that people are really craving that. And they're happy to sign away every single waiver just in order to feel more.
Caroline is an immersive experience director, multisensory food artist, and food anthropologist, exploring how behavior, ritual, and the senses intertwine around food. Trained at Central St. Martin's and SOAS, her work blends art, science, and anthropology to reimagine our eating rituals. She's created food installations and experiences around the world, collaborating with brands like Disney, Bang & Olufsen, and Selfridges, always inviting us to taste, feel, and think differently.
And I think food is a fascinating one, I find, because it's very habitual for us, all of us, and it's very easy for us to just habitually perhaps dismiss food sometimes just as in amongst the busyness of life. It's more functional, but of course it can be so much more than that. What this wonderful perspective that you have on food in addition to that.
And I think food it's almost like the last bastion. It's like it physically comes inside our body and becomes part of us. It's like it grows the cells we're living in.
Let's talk about sensory. Obviously food and taste and smell, but also sound and images. And how do you factor that in? How do you play with that, with those different elements?
Like almost make music as a special condiment to kind of add the flavor, or like the sound, but like when actually the act of eating changes the way you perceive music. And I find that really fascinating.
All right, hang on. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Let's have a look. Oh, that's hilarious. So what's the reflection from that? My brain's kind of hurting on the side. So just for those that aren't watching on video, what do we have on the table? Caroline, welcome to the Experienced Designers.
Thank you for having me. It's really exciting to have you here in my kitchen.
Absolutely. Today we have a very special experience ourselves in Caroline's kitchen in London. So look, firstly, thank you so much for inviting us here. Really grateful for that. It adds a nice dimension to come out of a studio and come and talk about something which, you know, you're really passionate about. But just kind of as a starting point, what we kind of wanted to talk today about was just in terms of your passion and the work that you're doing. How would you kind of describe what you do?
Oh, okay. Start with the most complicated question.
Definitely.
When we have some, maybe we have some time, but
Yeah.
I am really passionate about experiences rather than actually tangible things. I think this is how we connect with people. This is how we define who we are. And I love having fabulous experiences and actually modulating them, shaping them, and creating those moments for people that really change their perception, but touch their soul. Sounds a bit cheesy, but I think it really truly changes you, and it's a perfect resetting sometimes as well, how you interact with your environment, how you become more mindful. So as a food anthropologist, I love food, specifically flavor, because I think when it comes to experiences, and I do work a lot with other brands and experiences, everything is really screen based, and I feel like we have so much overkill on the screens, and my eyes seem so tired, and I think everyone's eyes feel really tired at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And I think it's like that's yet another screen we're looking at, and there are beautiful screen-based exhibitions and experiences, and when it comes to immersiveness, but I would doubt that this is actually truly immersive, because in order to immerse ourselves, we need to really fully be there present, and it's not a passive thing. So it really has to impact us. And I think food it's almost like the last bastion. It's like it physically comes inside our body and becomes part of us. It's like it grows the cells we're living in. So I think
Yeah.
that's a really beautiful aspect to make it more meaningful, but to anchor it as well.
Yeah. Let's break those two words down, food and anthropology.
I love, like when it comes to food and anthropology, I really like the idea of creating rituals. And I've always been fascinated. So I went to art college, to Central St. Martin. So you're always really encouraged to be super conceptual. And my main thing, and I realized it's ritual and habit and habitus. And it's like, what are the habits? And I'm fascinated by people's habits. And when you break them, if you always drink with your right hand, or if you always leave your house going to the right, and then you change it, you really make people more alert. You break that habit. And I think it's really fascinating as well to learn that, you can break a habit within 14 days. Lots of sociologists agree with it. And I think that's really interesting when it comes to how can we relearn and retreat. And retreats often are 14 days, when you go to yoga retreat or mindfulness retreats, because it does take 14 days. So I retrained as a food anthropologist, realizing that rituals and food is my main thing, and how different cults and religions actually used food and smells and items you would consume to anchor and to create community, and actually, to alienate people as well, but to mark who we are and our identify in the bigger scheme, like our true being through food. So I think that's really exciting. So it's not about reinventing the wheel, but just using what's already there and how we interact as humans. And using that as a toolbox.
Yeah, I love that. This word intentionality is it's so prevalent in our industry. It's super interesting, and I think food is a fascinating one. I find, because it's very habitual for us, all of us, and it's very easy for us to just habitually perhaps dismiss food sometimes, just as in amongst the busyness of life. It's more functional, but of course it can be so much more than that. What this wonderful perspective that you have on food in addition to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously like often belittled because it feels like an everyday thing because we need to eat. But I love that a lot of travel, from Columbus going to America was driven by greed. And like a lot of people, exploration and explorers was always like, okay, maybe in China there will be noodles. And I think I quite like that, of bringing back certain food items. So I think it's really exciting to think about how food is anchoring ourselves and has always been really like used like in that powerful way.
Yeah. Anthropology. So just for those that are not aware of anthropology from a food, but what is it, and what have you taken from that?
It's breaking down who we are through our rituals, through our interactions with other people, through our community. And I think so it's very important at the moment because obviously a lot of brands, a lot of experiences tried to build community. So I recently was involved in creating a wellness place as well in East London, and like we try to commodify community, but it's almost impossible to create a community through a members club, and obviously some communities do it really well, but it's something that actually has to grow. So anthropology is really much the interaction we have, and obviously when it comes to cults and religions, but just within the family boundaries as well. And then the idea of creating community within the experience design organization and how you come across people. And I think that's really interesting. And the rituals, the signs, the secret languages, the codes, and I think decoding and being mindful, all of this gives us an amazing toolbox and a playbox to work and design experiences to be more mindful of it. So I think that's interesting when it comes down to it's the anthropology of drinking coffee rather than just the nutritional value of drinking coffee.
Yeah. Give us an example of one, like a ritual, and maybe how we could break it down and extract some learning from it.
But I think it's really interesting, obviously, when it comes to coffee, a lot of people love to go to a coffee shop and they wait in line with a barista, and often the barista, like they ask for the name. So you're almost being called to the front of the queue. So it has this almost pseudo-spiritual being, because you're asked to come to the front of the queue when your name is called in order for your coffee to be presented to you. It has obviously huge feelings of a communion as well. And obviously the ultimate flex of being in like an urban environment is when that barista knows your coffee order already by heart. So you have that familiarity and community building. But it's still a commodity. You're still buying it. So I think that is really interesting. And that explains obviously the huge success of all these coffee shops where you have 50 people queuing up. But you could just make the same coffee at home. But it's very much about being there with your tribe in the same queue, like pilgrim almost. There's a pilgrimage to it. So
Yes.
it has same, like, I think it draws very heavy on, in a society that's a void of spirituality and God. I think it's almost people are creating those rituals in order to fill the void in a really
Yeah.
interesting way.
Can I share a ritual that Nina and I have at home? When we first bought our apartment in Stockholm, we were very lucky. It was a brand new apartment and it was quite high up. So we got to see sunrises and sunsets. So it was quite a lovely moment to enjoy nature. But both of us, we both journal and meditate in the morning, part of our rituals in the morning. And we very intentionally, because we love coffee, we very intentionally went out and found a coffee machine that served the purpose, in the sense that I love to experiment with coffee, but Nina wants to just press a button. So we had to find the technology, the ability to kind of serve both of us, but also to anchor into our ritual in the morning. And we've had these very specific chairs that we sit down on, and we kind of have our coffee and we meditate and journal. And that became part of our everyday, as part of our own ritual. But from a place, from our perspective, from a huge place of love for coffee as well. Yeah.
But I think that inspires great design and functionality. It's actually how you interact with it. It's like the ritual and what do you need and how you interact with coffee. And I think then creating that area and creating the space, it's not just the machine, but it's the space. Maybe you want to smell the coffee as before, and that's really important that lingers, and the seed and how you drink it. And I think that's when it comes to designing an experience and taking people on that with journey is very overused, but taking people on that journey, it's really important to actually deep dive into how people interact with it and what it means to them.
Yeah, agreed.
That moment, and at what point, and how much time is dedicated to it, and like whether it is just a pure functionality or it can be elevated to something else.
Yeah. So what made you choose food? How did you get into it?
I love food and I love eating, and I think it's always really interesting coming, like my mom was a doctor, so she did actually cook, but I like the idea of how preparing food was always seen as something really exotic, and the idea of, like, there is just a huge spectacle of creating huge dinner parties of people coming together and creating food that has so much drama and theater to it. So I quite see it as a choreography of a different, like a theatrical performance. So for me, that's how I see food and dinner parties, and obviously dining experiences as well. And when it comes to food, it is something that it's the final barrier. And that's actually when you tell a story and you make someone eat part of that story, they really, like, it becomes part of them. So it is something that is that, like, it's like a transubstantiation sometimes. It's like almost like pseudo-religious or not. It's like, but then, like, if I tell you the story about bananas and maybe Velvet Underground or Andy Warhol, and then you eat the banana, you really connect with that story in a different way, and it anchors you truly.
Yeah.
The other thing I love about food is that obviously it really holds a lot of terroir, like wine and food. It's like no other food item will taste the same, but it hasn't been, like it didn't grow or made in that region. So it's obviously that is something that's really interesting to connect ultimately to a place, to have that almost metaphysical connection to something. When you drink the wine from the area, like, yeah, terroir is used in wine production, but you could say the same thing to something else. And we all experience that when you go on holidays and you're in Italy and you have the most beautiful tomato and you try to recreate that moment in England. It just never works.
No.
So it holds so much. It holds a ray of sunshine. It holds the earth. It holds the knowledge. And I think that food, like, it's a really beautiful medium to kind of use that as an like ingredient. And I think our body reacts obviously to food, and but it's very intimate as well. Like when I sometimes do dining experiences and I ask people to be blindfolded to open their mouth, there's a lot of trust and surrender for actually allowing someone to place something in your mouth, especially in our Stone Age, where we're asked, it's very clinical. Do you have any allergies before you order something in a restaurant? So from a legal point of view, so just to kind of go, I don't know what you're putting there. It is very intimate. I said that once before. It's like, it's a bit weird, and it's more intimate than sex, unless you become pregnant. It's like something that really stays with you. And if like sports people, their hair strands get tested just if they had too much caffeine, because it really becomes part of your body. And I think
Hmm.
food really is therefore, yeah, it's obviously harder to play towards a bigger audience, because when you have obviously a screen, you can have 3,000 people come through a second through like
Yes.
something like the Outernet or, Frameless. It can play towards something else. But I think now that everyone is more interested in immersive experiences, playing towards, like we had audiences of 1,000 as well. It is really interesting
Yeah.
to have everyone eat something in the same way. So it truly becomes a communion of food.
Yeah. What's your favorite kind of experience that you've been involved with?
One of my favorites was actually really early on, was in a secret Masonic temple in London, where we didn't really disclose the location of it, and actually almost kidnapped people and had them picked up by cabs. So they didn't actually know where they were going, while blindfolded and masked. And they had a full dinner in this temple, but they knew that actually I created it. So, but I still have 20 years later, people come up to me and say, like, I was at that dinner. It's really changed me. So I think
Wow.
that's really beautiful because of the intentionality, but the meaningful and the long lasting of something in
Yes.
such a fast paced life, that people still remember 20 years later how they felt. And I think it is playing with a lot of elements of surrender, not knowing who the other guests were, but
Mm.
because they all knew that I curated it at the time. So when they recognized the names, it's like, I've been to dinner. It's like, where do you mean? It's like, well, I don't know where. I don't know what happened, but I was there, and I love that.
That's amazing.
But every single one is different. So I think it's like the nice thing is you don't have to repeat yourself, because you
No.
don't run a restaurant. So every time it's not always food based. It's like, I think I love when all the senses come to play and you really kind of get people out of the comfort zone.
Mm.
And obviously food is, for good or bad, something that you can easily poke out of the comfort zone with. Obviously I like working with immersive wellness as well, but obviously you have to literally turn up the heat in a sauna to get people out of the comfort zone. Well, with food, you can give something unknown or maybe slightly borderline fermented in order to create
Yeah.
quite extreme responses.
Yeah. How do you think about when you create an experience like that? How do you think about like the experience scape? Like, do you have like a structure to it? Are there certain elements that they're not necessarily a repetition, but there's a core foundational thought or approach that you take as part of that work?
I always break it down into 3 different archetypes. It's
Mm.
like, because there's some people who like to follow rules, and there's some people who are more questioning. And then there's just the median. So you can almost assume. So I really like to really think through how your experience makes people feel. And then obviously you can only assume that the majority of people, but then I really like to play towards the outliers, the people who are more cynical, the people, and how do you break them?
Mm.
Or that they're obviously people
Nice.
pleasers. So if you design an experience, you can almost guess that in the Western world, or if you learn how to read from left to right, that you would follow it going clockwise around a big room. You can see that as well in an airport. While obviously in a world where you've accustomed to reading right to left, you would go the other way around. But obviously, it is almost taking everyone in and making everyone walk the same way, and being aware of cultural differences. Maybe that's where anthropology comes in. It's like
Yeah.
that. You have maybe like using sound to make everyone go clockwise in a room, maybe through smell or like through sound. And I think that's really powerful to really break it down into different behaviors, because obviously they're much more, like Jungian archetypes are different behavior archetypes, because obviously it's very important to have in mind what is the end result? What do you want to make people feel? How do you get there? But then based on different archetypes, because people are different.
Yes.
But you can what is beautiful and really nice, how you can break it down to very simple overlapping archetypes.
Yeah.
So the people pleaser or the renegade.
It's quite
rebel.
similar in museums, right? The swimmers, skimmers, and divers. There's quite similar. Yeah, interesting. Let's talk about sensory. Obviously, food and taste and smell, but also sound and yeah, images and everything, bringing it kind of all together. How do you factor that in? How do you play with that, with those different elements?
Well, my favorite thing is when you really change and you like really alter people's perception. And I think in order to do this, if you surprise people, take them out of the comfort zone, suddenly their mind is altered and everything is more like, oh God, okay, that's so wide and that feels really heavy, and just drawing attention towards that. So it's maybe like a mindfulness exercise on steroids.
Yeah.
And I really like how the senses interact. And I think the cross modalities between the senses, how much music can really not manipulate, but modulate and nuance what we taste or how we perceive taste, and how you can really bring it out. So obviously, like talking about seaweed, it's nice. Obviously, it is anchored within the terroir of the sea, but actually how there's a certain mouthfeel, so it's really dry and almost clawing on your tongue. And how can you create sounds that counteract that and work almost as a condiment, not just as a background music? So it's not, of course, you can have Mexican food and listen to Mexican music. There's nothing wrong with that. It might be cultural appropriation, but that's a different thing. But how are you going to create the perfect soundscape to make seaweed, to really bring all your attention to it and actually almost make that experience of eating seaweed the best experience ever? So it's like, so I've been working a lot with unusual ingredients, and we kind of had bespoke soundscapes, and I worked with lots of other amazing sound designers and DJs. And so, because obviously there's a really beautiful interest in immersive experience design at the moment. But how can you really alter that, and how do you add a certain, like almost make music as a special condiment to kind of add the flavor, or like the sound, but like when actually the act of eating changes the way you perceive music. And I find that really fascinating.
Tell us more about that.
But
That's really
sound
cool.
has a really huge impact, the way that almost packaging is designed. So it's like, obviously, when you open a pack of crisps, they don't need to be designed so loud, but obviously that added crunch makes them feel fresh and crunchy.
Yes.
So that's almost factored in. So they could be in some like completely different packaging. So if you actually eat crisps that are not on the packaging, the perception would be that they taste ever so slightly staler. So I find that really interesting. So a lot of the crunch element has that. And then there are certain foods, that coffee, that lie on the same, it's equally bitter or sweet. But if you listen to music that brings out sweetness, which is like a high frequency, you perceive it as sweeter. And if you have a low frequency, then it brings out a bitterness in the same taste. And I think that's something that is fascinating because it's universally true. But if you watch a movie and you have the baddie come on, you have a very low frequency, and it's obviously straight away communicating you, it's like there's something dark, bitter, and dangerous coming in. And if you have the good person, that angelic person, it's accompanied by really beautiful, like, high notes and easy melodic music. So I think you can almost, prompt people and almost, modulate towards it. And I think it's fascinating. And the first time I heard this, like, oh, that's not possible. And I was really excited about this.
And tell me, so we have on the table here, we have some items that I think we're going to seaweed. What? Just out of interest, like what could we imagine now in terms of sounds and soundscape? Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing!
I think obviously so as I mentioned before, seaweed is really dry. It's an interesting one because it's completely vegan, and what I really like, if you listen to a certain soundscape, how much it can taste like fish. And obviously that is, for me, working with bigger brands and experiences, obviously on that individual experience. But if you need to shift from a sustainable point of view into eating less fish and overfishing, how can we actually change eating behavior on a bigger scale? So I think that's interesting. So I have a soundscape here I prepared for you to listen to. And obviously, maybe do you want to close your eyes?
Sure.
During that?
Let's do it. So just for those that aren't watching on video, what do we have on the table?
So the first course on our menu today, what we have prepared here, is a sheet of nori. So for listeners, obviously you can recreate that as well, and we can share that. So if you place the seaweed onto your tongue, but then try not to do anything, and I'm gonna play you.
Close your eyes.
Ideally, yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
And let it dissolve on its own, like accord. Don't do anything.
Okay. Take that. That was wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm always curious. That's what I'm like. I love obviously reading,
Okay.
but this
So, this is crazy. Okay. So, how do I even describe this? So, firstly, I was immediately transported to like a what do you call it? Like a seaside town with fishermen and boats and things like that. Like really. And then as we went, and then with the water, as it went, the water went up and increased with the waves, the taste deepened. So it got super deep. I can't explain it, like enhanced. It just went super. And as we carried on in the water, because obviously I think we were under the water, weren't we? It kind of then started to lighten, and it as if it kind of almost lifted perfectly with the music towards the end. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. But working with it, we had like this parameters, like the estimated consumption time. So the moment you go underneath the water, do you want some water?
No, I'm going to
At the moment you need to go
it's amazing.
underneath the water, that's the moment that the saliva comes almost into play in your mouth. So it's really bizarre, that sensation. So again, it's an approximation, but so it's designed so at first it sits on your tongue and then you're on the thing, and then suddenly as your body managed like to kind of almost send saliva into your mouth because it's so dry. That's when you go underneath the water. So it's like usually that happens, you can almost estimate at the same time. So you have that weird sensation of being dragged into the water sometimes. It's like
that's amazing.
So it's interesting how you can map out a space and like, colors, sound, because obviously you bring that to the table because assuming that you've been to a seaside. So that's like it's a Proustian memory like response that you bring all of that seaside comes out of your own like drawer and like people bring that to the table.
It was like an essence. It wasn't just a flavor. It was really, that element was also, just to add into this in terms of me. There's a piece here as well, as you were talking about the audience, the different archetypes of the audience. So although I'm into experiences, I had to also let go for a minute as well. I recognised internally, no, just let go with this. Like this is great.
Because it's food. It's not like something on the screen. People are more willing to interact. But like food, it's like, what am I supposed to do? And obviously it's a very natural response. Yeah. Because obviously it's like, I'm not sure what it is. It's like, I like that because obviously it's not allergenic. So you can work with like something like this. You can play towards 1,000 people.
Fantastic.
But it's amazing how it actually tastes like fish.
It did, very much
like,
so.
So people really like go like, oh, but there's fish in there. It's like, well, no, it's seaweed. So I think it's a really beautiful.
That's a very good point. It's very fishy.
Yeah, but I think because often people ask like, oh, it sounds really self-indulgent. What are immersive experiences and what's the application? So for me, it's working. I was lucky to work, like there was a government food campaign. So it's like, how can you actually apply a lot of these experience, like immersive experiential knowledge on it to a bigger scale? So I think that's really interesting because.
Can I just ask whether you know this? Just curious, what was happening to me biologically as a human as I'm engaging with the just simple thing of putting seaweed in my mouth and listening to music? Because it's a beautifully simple example, but there's so much complexity going on.
Yeah, I think it's like definitely like it's kind of almost like a pollination of both things, because obviously the seaweed unlocked nuances. Obviously, we should have had a real Dolby surround speaker system, but
yeah, that would be amazing.
It unlocked nuances in the music that you wouldn't have listened to before, because obviously it helps the music. It's like it becomes a multi-sensory show, and weirdly, the seaweed helps you almost experience the sound almost on your tongue. So it's like a full body experience, because usually like hearing something, it's again, sound is really powerful, but it becomes more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Like in Germany, it says like a Gesamtkunstwerk. So it's like, it's more like 1 + 1 makes 3, because otherwise you have the music and then you have seaweed. And then the music really brings out nuances of the seaweed. So you have obviously the mouthfeel, the texture, and the terroir, and it plays to all three. Like the idea that you go up, because it's obviously not a linear piece. So it has a beginning, middle, and end. So you stand on the beach and you go into the water, you dive right underneath the waves, and then you come back out again. So it is like humans respond really well to a little journey, even like however simplistic it is. So it's not just, because obviously you could just have linear abstract sea sound, but then it wouldn't be, because you want to go into that. And obviously you then like project your own experiences of being in the seaside. I mean, some people say actually whether you have fear of drowning, so it actually can have weird trauma response. So I had some people say, oh my God, I like almost drowned once as a teenager, and that really brought that back. It's like, okay, that's very powerful how that can be unlocked. Yeah. But it cross-pollinates. It's like one or the other. I'm not sure sometimes what leads with which. Some people obviously are very much taste-driven or music-driven, but I think it's beautiful because it really, you're right in between the two, so it hangs.
That's amazing.
In between space.
I mean, we can trick our brain, right? It doesn't know the difference between what's real and not real half the time.
And
anyway,
that's really powerful. And I think in order to, when it comes to virtual reality and things, and I think having then food really anchors it and makes everything more real, because it's happening in your own mouth. So I think often our brain is so overused through visuals and over like visual and sonic stimuli, so that we have to filter it out in order to survive. It's like the idea of have to stop looking. But when it comes to food, because obviously there's a danger of being poisoned as well. So I think food is fascinating. It's like the last bastion where we still have agency, because you still decide that you open your mouth. Well, the onslaught of sound and visuals is very, you don't really have agency to stop it.
It's very underrepresented, isn't it? It is. But that for me is opportunity always.
I think it's always been used. So I think the ultimate, like anchor point to most world religions and even smaller cults is actually, or like the cult of the barista coffee thing, is always actually the food element. It's almost the most, it's underrepresented, but I think it's the core element.
Yeah, agree.
Comes down to it.
What else do we have? What other wizardry do you have for me?
I think the only way to follow this up is with a bit of a. I think what is interesting is that because we're now deep diving into like flavor and taste and texture, and a lot of people, I think, when it comes down to it, they don't actually know how to describe taste, or when it comes down to describing whiskeys or wine, because I think people are a bit unsure. Are they describing flavor or taste? So I think it's just really interesting how even our nose comes into play as well, because obviously that's sound, but now smell is so much of how we perceive taste as well. And we all had that experience of, you have a cold and suddenly you crave chili because everything else tastes a bit bland, or for some obscure reason, everyone, every time you're airborne, everyone loves the idea of tomato juice, or like a Bloody Mary tastes really good. So there's something interesting in your hearing when it comes to taste.
Yeah.
So we're just going to try to taste cinnamon, but maybe if you just close your nose for me.
Okay.
So no air comes through.
Absolutely no.
And then I'm going to put some cinnamon maybe on the back. And then if you just lick it. And then open the nose.
Oh my God. Do you want to try it? Come. It's amazing.
Take it closer now. I was excited because you're Swedish, so like you can
hold your nose, make sure there's nothing there. Wow, that cute.
And now with me. Wow. So cinnamon is just flavor. It's just our nose tastes this. What we think we taste is actually our nose taste. It's just amazing to what extent our nose, our olfactory system, is actually creating that sensation of taste. So it's interesting.
I had a very minute second, this feeling of like being a bit disorientated by that. That was really funny.
Yeah,
it was really weird.
You don't trust your senses. Like,
I was like, and then I kind of went like that, and then I kind of was like, "Oh, what was that? Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, wow."
Yeah, so I think it's fascinating.
Okay, try this trick at home. It's very good.
It's really simple, but I think it really helps you identify as well, like reading, and obviously a lot of in wine tastings or whiskey tastings, people do that you can actually really trust your nose. And it's like, obviously, what sometimes looks really pompous when it comes to it's like the idea. what's the nose and something. But actually, there is so much in like our nose, and I think it's like when it comes to creating experiences as well, it's like something like subconsciously what we taste, but we think like, oh, I think the real underrepresented thing is obviously the smell.
Interesting.
So I
And
think,
also that placement of that smell in the journey is quite interesting, and part of an enter phase when people arrive. It could be like a palate cleanser to the outside world as then they enter into a food engagement type service.
but I think we all use scent to almost create our own immersive experiences. I think it's really interesting how the sale of scented candles skyrocketed. It's like everyone who is interested in candles, like we're all willing to spend 50, 60 or 70 quid for it. But because and then obviously have a different scented candle for the evening or the morning or
Yes.
so it's interesting how people actually use in their private habitat, and actually a lot of restaurants do it as well. It's like the idea of using scent as something as part of the experience, but time-based, different ones as well.
Yes, I actually saw that there's a business in Europe somewhere, Sanofi, I think it is. They're really big on employee experience design, but they're really going in on it. Like really, I'm very impressed with the investment in the team, but all this intentionality to the experience they want to have for their employees. However, I noticed the other day that they actually created their own scent for their offices, and they actually did a whole experiment and chose one. So it's a really,
So I think the office
it's-
has to smell of something. So the
yeah,
idea of, air sub smells of something. There is a real recognizable
there
scent.
is.
So these days, I think there are brand designers, and actually I worked on projects as well where people really create a different scent. But like it's not just the one scent. It's like maybe there's a scent for. I love that the nonlinearity, that the perfect morning scent is more refreshing rather than the evening one. And I think that's
Agree.
interesting how, especially restaurants, they really like alter that as well.
Yeah. How else have you played with this as well, with smell and taste?
Well, obviously, because when people talk about flavor, there's something really interesting as well. It's like when it comes to coffee, and because I was working on a project, well, at the moment with EEG data, and the actual impact of drinking coffee to our brain is the moment we smell it, not when we actually consume it. So we think we actually physically need the coffee, but they wake up and smell the coffee moment actually happens the moment you hold onto your cup and it's really close, and then you smell it. This is the moment, if you've been conditioned to drink coffee, that your brain is awake. That's the moment you wake up. So it's actually really interesting how smell is. You don't actually have to drink the coffee. So it's like in order to have that feeling of being moving up for your brain activity.
You're triggering,
Maybe your body still needs a coffee for other reasons. But in order to trigger that brain activity, to wake yourself up, it's a smell. So I think that's really fascinating as well.
Wow. Wow. You're opening our world, hopefully a listener's world right now with this. This is amazing. What else do we have on the table that I'm curious about?
The last thing on the menu is a simple banana. I think it's just because talking to you, I thought like it's really interesting just because breaking the habitat and the habitus and being really different with like how we used to do it and having that intentionality. So it's not just about the complicated ingredient, it's more about how we get to it. So I thought it might be really interesting to maybe put a blindfold on and eat a banana, have these forks, which I once made. So they obviously, it's just fun to actually have different dining implements as well. So just put the banana.
Explain this fork for our listeners as well, Caroline.
There are different forks. I call them heaven or hell, and it's based on a really old parable. The idea of that in a land far away, people instead of arms had like forks, and in one version people learn how to feed each other, and in one they tried forever to reach the food with themselves. And I thought that's really nice. So actually, I just, without mentioning the back parable, I just once created them for the dinner party, and it was interesting how on some evenings people fed themselves, and then it was in the garden, and then some evenings, depending on the mood as well. It's like people started just to realizing it's much easier if you feed the person opposite. So hence calling them the heaven and hell forks.
I love it.
Interesting. So it's like the whole infinite, obviously, playing with all the elements when it comes to eating. So I think it's like my thing is not food itself, but it's the act of eating, the act of experiencing eating and coming together, and the community and how it holds, from almost holding communion and bringing things together, and dislikes. I love that the best bonding is when people say like, oh my God, I hate so and so, like whatever food items it is. I think I have whole friendships based on active dislike of certain foods as well, or overdone meat or something like this. And I think that there holds a lot of potential. I think whole feuds in some families are based because people do their turkey wrong. So I think I quite like the anger when it comes to it,
Interesting.
because the emotion when it comes to it. Should we get some knives?
Sure,
Yeah.
let's do it.
So if you pop the blindfold on, and I think we could make that even a game show. Who's going to finish the banana first?
Oh my, okay, let's do it.
No pressure.
No. So,
Choose your weapons.
oh, hang on. Oh my God. Can you just unthing it? Just use your hands to...
No.
Oh, you're not... No hands at all, not even to... I don't even think I've got the knife the right way around. Okay, I got something.
Obviously, there's no choking is at your own risk.
Okay, I think... Is Caroline like an expert? She's already like...
I'm not sure we're going to have the skin on. Oh, no. There was nothing there.
Oh, God. Hang on. Right. Come on. Come on, Usher. You can do it. I don't even... Oh, my God. Right, hang on. I'm going to have to go... I can hear Nina in pieces. No. Wow. No, I've definitely got some skin off though. Hang on.
You can eat the skin as well. Like, I think you would still win.
Right, come on. I can't even get
You almost have to use your hearing here.
Right, hang on. Yeah. Yeah.
And this you have some skin in the game.
Oh, God.
I'm cheating using the hands now.
Okay, I'm going to join you. Hang on. Let's kind of remnants of a banana's left on my... Okay, I'm going to
So I think I definitely clearly win.
Oh, wow. Let's have a look. Oh, wow. Look at the state of that. Oh, that's hilarious. So what's the reflection from that? I think I got that my brain's kind of hurting on the side.
I think it's quite good. People are saying you're supposed to obviously always go outside that comfort zone and interact with things in a different way. But my point here being is like it's really interesting to
Need to have some.
To have the banana is something so bleedingly simple. You don't have to do something complicated, but it's almost the experience of eating the banana. So it's not about the banana. So my interest is the experience of eating the banana and giving people an experience they never had before. So it doesn't have to be so complicated. That's what I'm trying to explain. I think it's kind of just share. Like it's just really funny, and it's like the idea of, but it makes you taste it and like experience in a different way. And it's like it's a really fun way, and I think it's like obviously there's fun and laughter, but it's really interesting when it comes to immersing the banana into yourself, but like immersing yourself in the texture of the banana.
That's fantastic,
and it becomes more memorable. It's really fun.
I mean, I'm crying. I'm genuinely crying with laughter. That was absolutely fantastic. There's by the way, every household should have one of these for sure. This is awesome. I love that. it kind of became, yeah, there's a competition bit kind of kicks in, but it's kind of also a puzzle to figure out, which was really interesting.
Yeah,
It,
you
what,
obviously like it becomes really tactile in a different
ah,
way. So you use all your senses, and obviously what that taste is the payoff. But then you're really aware of like the smell of the banana when you open it, and you almost have to use your sense of hearing. It's like, okay, am I hearing it right? So it's
that was
a
brilliant.
multi-sensory, really simple thing. So it's like obviously I like, and I'm very lucky as well to work with very complicated stage design dining experiences and
Yeah.
immersive experiences. But I think it is really interesting just to kind of strip it down and actually work like how can we push the limit with the simplest ingredients possible.
So, Caroline, tell me a little. Let's kind of, while I kind of bring my brain back down to, the podcast. Yeah. So, as we kind of like widen the lens from like, yeah, this kind of experiential food into maybe more into the business end, into creating events and these types of things. What's been kind of your experience in that? What have you kind of brought to the table? Have you got any examples you can share with us?
Yeah, it's really interesting because obviously working with that, you can always like, obviously clients are always really adamant of working with food, and obviously you have the hurdles of legal going through it all. But once all of that trust is there and they surrender to your creative, like I don't know, insanity ideas, it's really fun, and I think it's really good because then you become obviously if you want to create memorable brand activations, it's actually really powerful
It
and
is.
to create that. So obviously that's the joy of obviously at the moment working in at the moment with reduced costs. Obviously you can like reach much more people, like fewer people in a much more meaningful way, and I think
Yeah.
that's really powerful.
Agree.
I think.
Yeah, and you don't need like necessarily huge budgets necessarily,
Yeah.
because obviously, yeah, you
But
can.
just think about scaling that up on a bigger
Yeah.
thing, like with projections, with the whole thing.
Yes.
But I think it is interesting. I think it's like when it comes to, or like when it comes, yeah, food advertising, drinks advertising, but just general experiences, people are willing to, because I think everyone has been onboarded. So now I think everyone has obviously like already kind of, there's such a hunger for these kind of experiences
Yeah.
to go outside your comfort zone, to I don't know, eat something while sweating in a sauna, while listening to weird things, while being exposed to strobe lighting, that people are really craving that, and they're happy to sign away every single waiver just in order to feel more and to have like a changed, mind altered experience, or like being more aware of their mind body axis. So I think food is a really fabulous way to play with that. So I
It
think
is.
it's a nice time to be in that area as well,
Yeah.
because I think the general public is really up for it. And I think it's like they've been almost universally onboarded, and everyone's like, give us more. And
Yeah.
they want to be pushed to the limit. I think probably to kind of create content for their own stuff that's not easily replicatable. It's like,
Hmm.
and there's a hunger for everything needs to be more provocative, more crass, more out there.
Yes. Where's the opportunity as well around accessibility for this as well in terms of the general public, shall we say? Where to kind of weave this into the everyday as well. The opportunities there.
Obviously, you can share that easily through social media. I mean, when it comes to sound files, it's really fabulous to share through, like, like like QR codes. And, you could have and I worked with Sainsbury's before when it comes to cheese, where we actually like created the soundscape of the heritage and the terroir of the individual cheese, so people could easily download it in the supermarket. So it became like your sonic cheesemonger. So that's actually funny on a bigger scale, but obviously when it comes to the at-home experience as well, it's like the idea of the reason we create and have people around is in order to break barriers and to forge connection and
Yeah.
create community. And often people forget that. It's like, it's not about proving how amazing you are as a cook. It's just about just having a good laugh around the table. So I
Yeah.
think and food is often the icebreaker, and food is obviously being used for centuries
Yeah.
in that way. And the reason we don't have sharp knives, and every time they should order a steak in a restaurant, they actually make a big song and dance of bringing you the knife, is because traditionally it's where we leave weapons and sharp knives behind. So that's why knives at a table are usually they're not sharp, and they're intentionally not sharp, because this is where we come together to break bad. So I think that's
Yeah,
interesting. So actually, the very moment the only time you need to have a sharp knife, they actually bring it out, but only for that moment, and they take it away. And I quite like that sentiment as well.
amazing.
So yeah, at home, obviously you can woo people with those forks, ask them to eat the banana,
Yeah.
blindfolded, and do those things. But I think it's to remember as well, food is a moment of creating things and understanding something about where people come from, their story, their culture as well. Because, you eat their food and you kind of connect with them on a really beautiful, metaphysical level. I think
Yeah, I
that's a
love
really
that.
important thing.
Very. Just in terms of a closing reflection that we can kind of perhaps co-create or share, what would you like to impart on the audience today to from just this wonderful kind of discipline or lens that you have through a food lens? What would you like to impart or share?
I think the one thing, I mean, obviously it's up to people, but people are craving a lot of mindfulness and awareness, and they're seeking it out through quite complicated retreats and things. And I think when it's not internalized and doesn't come within you, you can almost start seeking it with drinking water in a certain way, or coffee in a certain mindful way, and interacting with really simple food items. And when it comes to flavor, noticing that in a much more meaningful, mindful way, which I think is more sustainable. It's financially sustainable, environmentally more sustainable,
Yeah.
and, physically as well, more sustainable. So I think that's a really interesting way forward. I think because it starts small rather than creating the mind. You don't need to almost start with ayahuasca. It's in order. I think that should be the final bastion, rather than changing, having that mind altering experience while listening to a soundscape
Mm.
with eating seaweed could give you a certain amount of, microdosing on that awareness
Yes.
journey.
Yeah. Caroline, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you've messed with my chemistry set today. I've absolutely loved coming to your kitchen today, spending time with you in your natural habitat. Very kind. I'm so grateful. And the seaweed, I think just a quick reflection back, I think there's this really interesting thing around just bringing more intentionality to food, period. I think you're right. I think in the experiential world, there's a lot of emphasis on visuals, and I think food can play an even bigger part, I think, in terms of bringing so much more value to people. So I think this is a wonderful showcase of that. And thank you so much. And very grateful for you joining the podcast.
Wonderful to have you to share these food items.
It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me win the banana.
You won that one fair and square for sure. But Caroline, thank you so much. And thank you.